Okay, we're on the phone right now with Paul Glover. He is the Green candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mike.
Pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay, so Paul Glover, tell us all about Paul Glover and what makes you qualified to be governor of Pennsylvania.
A few months ago, the Greens called me up. The Green Party called me and invited me to run for governor of this state. And I have a history with the Green Party, having started the Los Angeles Green Party, the Ithaca, New York Green Party, but moreover have started 18 organizations and campaigns over the last several decades that model ecology and social justice in the provision of basic needs for food, fuel, housing, health care, planning, education, transportation, finance. And I've intruded into all of these fields. I taught urban studies at Temple University, and I've written 6 books about grassroots economic power, how we can take control of the economy to make it work for us. So, with this emphasis on solutions rather than just griping, which a lot of us, of course, do because there's a lot of frustration in our economy, in our culture, our society, the need for solutions that bring people together to rebuild America upon a basis of environmental health and social justice is more imperative every single day. So because I have this background, they asked me to lead the ticket, and my lieutenant governor candidate is Wendy Lynn Lee up in Bloomsburg. She teaches, she's a philosophy professor over there. So we are the Glover-Lee ticket. The main issues to us seem to be banning fracking. Fracking damages water. It is intended, most of it, from the state for export. There is a rip-off process that people get. People who sign the contract get an upfront payoff, and then that declines precipitously. Fracking is associated now with earthquakes and destroys habitat, farmland. Farmland and regional agriculture, to me, and many others, are a primary source of a healthy future, an essential component of regional stability. And likewise, legalizing marijuana, way overdue. Compared with cigarettes, which kill 440,000 Americans every single year, marijuana is a relatively harmless euphoriant. I don't personally recommend putting anything into lungs except fresh air, but we are human beings, so people will do one thing or another to ride over the rough places of life. So those are a couple big issues. I have a background in green job development. I've written a couple books about green jobs, and I used to publish Green Jobs Philly News here in Philadelphia. I have a plan specifically to create 500,000 green-collar jobs. That is to say, we can have jobs without tearing the environment apart. We can have jobs rebuilding our civilization so that it's energy efficient, so that we need a fraction of the fossil fuel we currently rely on. Shifting from dependence on cars toward transit, particularly trains, and expanding Medicare to everybody upon a basis of health co-ops. I did this in Ithaca, New York. I created a local health co-op whose members paid $100 a year, and we're covered for 12 categories of common emergency anywhere in the world for that same $100 as we grew gradually. And upon the base of that kind of genuinely non-profit medical infrastructure, we can cover everybody's health needs without raising taxes. And those are the biggest and primary issues as I see them. Certainly funding public schools and reforming curricula so that the first thing that is taught is a love of learning and an embrace and celebration of creativity and independent thinking. Student debt It's a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And as governor, I would set aside a few $1 million to buy back student loans at pennies per dollar. You might have heard of Rolling Jubilee,
Mm-hmm.
which successfully purchased student loans at 2 cents on the dollar and retired those. So as a priority for medical and dental students in the state, and then gradually expanding from there, we would buy back student loans. In exchange, the graduates would work for a couple, 3 years in lower-income neighborhoods in Pennsylvania. So there are an immense variety of wonderful creative possibilities open to us that the formal and prevailing economy, dominated by the largest companies, does not accommodate, does not welcome, does not even conceive. We can create our own money, our own credit systems. I did this in Ithaca, New York also. I designed paper money on my computer at home and then convinced several thousand people and over 500 businesses that it was real money. We've traded millions of dollars of our own paper money in Ithaca and making loans of it without charging interest. So we don't have a budget problem. We have an imagination problem. Everything good can happen. All we need to do is think of what we think is good and then begin to create local models of the practicability of commencing that direction for society.
Is this the first time you've run for a major political office, Mr. Glover?
In 2003, the Green Party called me up and asked me to contend in the Green Party primaries for President of the United States. And I said, okay, on that same basis to emphasize solutions. And I said, I'm not going to travel anywhere. I'm not going to actively campaign. But I put up a website introducing some possibilities. And I was on the ballot in 5 states and got some delegates at the National Convention, but did not actively pursue that. It requires a person ready to travel a whole bunch. And I was busy already in Ithaca. But I've lived in Los Angeles. I wrote a book out there titled Los Angeles, A History of the Future, about how you could rebuild that tough town over the next several decades toward balance with nature. And I started the Ithaca, New York Greens, the Los Angeles Greens, and I was the Green Party candidate for mayor of Ithaca, New York. And so I have persistently raised these ideas that we can prepare for the best rather than accept gradual decline, a confinement of our better possibilities. We live in an economy, I think, that tends to punish and confine more and more people. The middle class is eroding. The free enterprise is being clobbered by general large corporate entities, media consolidation. And an economy instead that celebrates our creativity, releases us to be humans in the best senses of the word.
What makes you different from the major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans? Obviously, I think most people would say the Greens are starkly different from the Republicans, but some people might argue that a vote for the Green Party is hurting the Democrats when, maybe we should be voting for a Democrat to, stop the Republican takeover of the state. How would you respond to that argument that it's a wasted vote?
I think it's a wasted vote to continue to be pushed around and off and toward the cliff by the major parties. That is to say, the Republican Party would just shove us off the cliff. Many of us would characterize it that way. Where, by slim contrast, the Democrats would usher us politely off that cliff. And that cliff is corporate domination, a decline of the job base, a decline of the environmental quality. Whether it happens faster or slower, to me it seems like the Democrats think 5 years ahead because they're dedicated to normal. The Republicans think $5 ahead because they're dedicated to money. And the Greens are thinking 5 generations ahead because we're dedicated to the future. I think that farther vision is something which our economy and our society and our culture have less emphasized as time goes by. And I think that becomes the bottom line for a lot of us. It causes us to step outside of that. Now, the Tea Party took great control over the Republican Party by being willing to risk Republican defeats. So likewise, on the other end of the spectrum, Greens are willing to risk Democratic defeats in order to force them to address certain of these fundamental issues. I mean, neither party would end student loan usury. Neither party would end credit card usury. Neither of those two parties would end predatory lending by banks. Neither of them would decisively end racial profiling by police. None of them would legalize marijuana. We heard that at a candidates forum in Philadelphia yesterday. None of them would do that. Neither of the major party candidates would dramatically shift funding from prisons to schools. And none of them are competent. And none of them have the background that I do to create 500,000 green jobs in solar construction, installation, regional and urban farms. None of them would emphasize job security through worker ownership. None of them would ban GMOs and promote permaculture. None of them would steer state pensions toward investments that empower workers and enrich our state, recycle money within the state. None of them would end the subsidies for coal and nuclear power and shift that to solar and wind. None of them would end mountaintop removal.
Are you seeing a turn in the state of Pennsylvania toward the Green Party? How has registration and support of the party been over the past, say, decade?
This candidacy has galvanized the party. Its Facebook page and its enrollments and this signing of petitions, nominating petitions, has been really nicely proceeding. We're in a time from March 12th to the end of July of gathering signatures on petitions to get on the ballot. In Pennsylvania, independent parties like ourselves need 17,000 signatures to get on the ballot. The Democrats and Republicans need 2,000 signatures to get on the ballot. The game is rigged. And they're trying to confine democracy within a very tight suit, which does not accommodate the urgent views that many of us have for ecology and social justice. And you have an extraordinarily corrupt bureaucracy, a revolving door between regulation, legislation, and industry, in the fields of environment and health insurance particularly. And a Green Party is not taking donations from corporations. We'll stand there and tell them to get lost. When they come and tell us, put on the table their demands for accommodation to their domination of our land, our law, and our money.
So my next question was going to be how the campaign is going so far, but let me build on that a little bit. Obviously, not having all of the big money that the two major parties have, able to buy $1 million commercials on television and radio, you rely more on grassroots getting your word out, like social media, like going to colleges and getting young people involved. Tell us what some of your major initiatives are to get your name out there so that people know who Paul Glover is.
That's exactly the deal. The media is dominated by the same corporations that call the shots, and which ultimately control the major candidates. So it is our primary challenge to get the word out, and I've started out with a Facebook page, Facebook Glover, the number 4, Glover, Glover, the number 4, Governor, Glover 4, Governor. And
gotcha.
I've been putting up a range of posters there that summarize this, so like info placards that graphically dramatize our positions on different issues. And the next step, yes, indeed, is expanding from that platform. I have a Pinterest page, Twitter, and Tumblr is next, and I've got several videos, and those through YouTube. We need to go viral, and of course viral is not something you can make happen, but we've done pretty well with certain of the Facebook pages. And so we're welcoming help of this kind from people who want to put together music videos and video dramatizations, people who are far more tuned in. I was pretty darn good at the old media, Scissors and Glue. I've done graphic work that's appeared in Time, Newsweek, New York Times, Smithsonian Magazine, and so forth. But when it's come around now to the electronic design, and certainly would welcome help from people who are ahead in that.
So if a student or anybody who was listening to this wanted to help, they could contact you, through the Facebook page or the website?
Yeah, the Facebook page, Glover, the number 4, Governor, or